Hey, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be doing a VFX and editing breakdown of my newest video, and I'm going to show you guys how you can improve your own editing game and make your stop motions look even better. I asked you guys to send in some questions and I'm going to try and go through and answer some of them as well. Alright, let's get into the video. So first up, it starts with a pretty simple shot of the SWAT team walking towards Homelander as he floats down. The only difficult part of this was masking out the rig that was supporting him. I used a clean frame without him in the photo before each shot with the rig, and then used Stop Motion Studio's erase tool to remove it. There was a bit of light flicker in the background, so it took quite a while to do that, but in the end it worked out quite nice. Again, this next shot here is pretty simple, just him landing, and then I added a bit of movement to the cape to make it feel like it was blowing in the wind. I tried to ease in and out, and also make the movement of the cape feel kind of random. Next shot here, I added a bit of camera movement. I actually did this artificially, so I filmed the shot with the camera still, and then afterwards in HitFilm, which is the editing software I use, completely free by the way, I added the movement in. It does take a bit longer to do it this way, but it gives you a lot more control over the movement than if you did it practically. I just tried to add a bit of movement to each frame to try and make it a bit more interesting. I also got a question from JATMation23. He asked me how I keep the camera steady, and to be honest it's quite simple. I just have a camera stand that I made out of Lego. My phone fits pretty snug in there, so it won't move in between frames. I'll put a link in the description to this video here where I talk about it in a bit more detail. Pretty much the same trick for the next shot, I just added the camera movement in post. I tried to make it follow the movement of the gun a bit to sort of emphasise that move. Anyway, this is where the video gets a bit more interesting, with all the VFX going on. I did get quite a few questions on this. Video House JSQ asked me, what digital effects did you use? And Deep Wrinkle Animation asked where I got the laser effects from. The laser effect was just some stock footage I found on YouTube that I composited in and removed the background. And to be honest, to answer the other question, that's where I got pretty much all the effects of the video. I just typed in what I wanted, for example, flame stock footage, and then there's a lot of good stuff, but it does take quite a while to sort through them all. Then I just add them into HitFilm, and there's a setting where you can change the blend mode to screen, and it will remove the black background for you. Then you can just move the effect around and resize it to fit wherever you need. I wanted to make the VFX in this really stand out, and that's something I love about the show, so I tried to make them feel a lot more realistic than I usually would. A year or two ago I probably would have just done this with Saber movie effects, but I just felt that didn't look good enough for what I wanted. For this shot I also added an orange glow, smoke, flames, and then a heat wave effect with some camera movement on top. For the heat blur, there's just an effect in HitFilm that I added on top of the video. It allows you to control how much blur you want, so I messed around with that until I was at a level I was happy with. Yeah, there's quite a lot that went into just this 3-second clip. It probably took me about 3 hours to edit, but I do think it was worth it. I also got some questions about the minifig destruction. Pierre8447 asked if the figures are destroyed after I use them, and yeah, these figures are. Well, they're in minifigure heaven now. No Name Productions 2482 asked, how did you do the destruction in the video? I pretty much just took a lighter to this guy's head and just burnt it a bit more each frame until it looked pretty crispy and melted. I know some people are really against destroying their figures, but I honestly don't really mind, especially if it's going to look really cool. And for a shot like this, I don't think it would have looked anywhere near as good if I didn't sacrifice these figures, so I think I made the right call. I got a few questions about how I did the blood rain effect. Behind the Bricks BTB and Mighty Dude 1 asked me how I filmed that. I used a bit of a trick for this. I mixed practical and visual effects, so when the blood's on the ground it's paint, but when it's in the air I literally just drew on red lines in Stop Motion Studios, except for a few of the bigger clumps which were done with blobs of blue tack that I painted red, and then I just masked out the supports for those. For drawing the blood in the sky, I actually worked backwards, starting with the blood on the ground and then lined it up so the blood falling would follow the same path. Then when they hit the ground, I just animated the paint spreading out onto the ground for the impact. For some of the bigger drops, I did have them bounce up a bit off the ground first and then spread out onto the floor to kind of mimic how rain sort of splashes up. This shot was pretty fun to film, and I really do like how the blood that splats onto the figures interacts with them, dripping down. Yeah, definitely looks super cool. For the next scene, I wanted a little pause before Homelander finished them off, and then for the laser effect from him, it's the same as earlier with that heat blur added on top. As well, then it cuts to a further back angle where some of the minifigures' torsos get completely destroyed. To do this, I just took a knife and sliced through them. Credit to LEGO, these minifigures are pretty hard to cut. They use some strong plastic, but I persevered. I added some smoke coming off the marks where he sliced through them, and also this orange glowing effect around the cut marks. I did this by just masking around these parts with an orange plane. And then I just added a neon glow effect on top of them. I also lowered the opacity so that you could still see the minifigure's body underneath. I have no idea if this is something that would actually happen in real life, but I thought it looked cool. Like from the heat of the laser, the minifigures started glowing. It did take a while and it doesn't really seem like much, but when you layer all these different effects on top of each other and you see the final video come together, it's very satisfying and definitely makes it feel worth it. For the final clip of Homelander flying off, it was very simple to animate, but when you've got all the effects on it, it really does take it to another level. I just masked out the support bricks that I added under him, then I also added this dust overlay. I also added some motion blur to Homelander to make it seem like he's flying off super fast. There's a free app actually that I use for the motion blur, it's called CapCut. Really easy to use, just click on the motion blur and then you can mess around with the settings until you're happy with it. For this as well, I filmed it with the camera still and then added in some more movement after in hit film. For trying to make it follow the way he moves, for these shots when I add the movement in, it's always good to film it super wide and then you've got a ton of space to work with when you want to add in the movement. The thing I love about this is it lets me really test out a bunch of different camera movements and I can fine tune it till I'm really happy. If I tried to do this movement practically by moving the camera, you either get it right first time or you've got to reshoot the whole scene till you get it. I hope this video was interesting and gave you guys a little insight into what goes into editing these videos. And if you make stop motions as well, I hope you learned something or found out a new trick you want to try. I can definitely make more videos like this, tutorial / behind the scenes, whenever I post a new stop motion. So if you'd be interested in seeing that, drop a like. Also, I do just want to say a big thank you. I got a ton of nice comments on the last video. I know I haven't posted in ages, so I really appreciate you guys bearing with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.